This is television for the Isles of Scilly, brought to you with Worldwide Financial Planning, Truro and Penwith College, and the Scilly Lottery. From Radio Scilly, this is scillytv.com. 60 people have attended a meeting to form a group to oppose the Wildlife Trust's deployment of cattle and the use of ponies in maintaining the landscape. Originally, 900 people signed petitions from the spring opposing grazing and the use of electric fencing on the Wildlife Trust's managed land around the islands. Barnsley Ward presented the opening to the meeting. Some of the key players behind the new group, with him, are already on the grazing discussion group, which includes a spectrum of views about the Wildlife Trust policy and representatives from different land user groups. Supporters of this new group, Save Our Scilly, have been meeting after the grazing group for months now. Barnsley told the meeting that the Wildlife Trust proposal to erect electric fences on the island of Gew proved the last straw for many members of that grazing group, and that's why they decided to form a special organisation, Save Our Scilly. He told the meeting the most important species in Scilly was the human species, and the group needed to be recognised. They wouldn't go away, and they intended to campaign until all the fences and stiles put in by the Wildlife Trust were removed. One way forward would be to get people elected onto the Wildlife Trust and change it from within. Barnsley believes Prince Charles is aware of the disquiet. He read out a letter from the Prince's office which acknowledged some local concerns but suggested the grazing discussion group was the forum for debate. After a presentation of images and slides showing the effects of the burning of gorse and the placement of electrical fencing on the landscape, attendees were told they could donate cash to help the group with its organisation, and a bucket was placed at the exit for cash support. Richie Christopher tells Radio Scilly they hope to put together a committee over the next few weeks. The boss of the Wildlife Trust says he's disappointed the group's been formed. He's worked hard to try and meet protesters who've objected to their land management. David Moore says he's had a number of meetings to negotiate areas of concern.
It's disappointing, really, when the Trust has worked very hard to listen, following the petition, listen to public opinion, and we've fully engaged in this grazing access and working group, which was set up to find a practical and workable way of moving things forward.
He says that ditching animal grazing for purely mechanical land management isn't really practical.
Well, mechanical operations aren't possible on all sites, and some of the criticism we're getting is for the sort of starkness, the brutality of some of the processes, and mechanical clearances are quite stark, whereas grazing is actually a more natural process happening over a long period of time, and the transition of sites from a neglected state to a site in good condition, ecological condition.
David says the role of the Trust would remain consistent, and even if objectors were elected on, they wouldn't be able to change the Trust's aims and objective.
So a common approach would be that these habitats were formed over centuries through grazing, so grazing is a key to maintaining them. So I can't see that you could remove grazing and still achieve the same objectives of any organisation charged with delivering land management of these very important habitats.